Like last week, today we are going to discuss about the female reproductive system. Same way how we have discussed about the male reproductive system, we have to discuss about its structures, functions, etc. And in female reproductive system, compared to the male reproductive system, we have two parts. Female is also having that external and internal. Same way, the female is also having external and internal part inside the female reproductive system. And if you're comparing with the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system, one thing is very important. The male reproductive system is responsible to produce sperm, and the sperm will be given to the female reproductive system and balance fusion, the growth of fetus, attachment, growth of fetus, everything takes place inside the female reproductive system. So it is very very important to understand the female reproductive. Because we have to know if when the pregnancy takes place what will happen, if the pregnancy don't takes place what will happen, and what are the reasons for the lack of production of ova, the female structure, female secondary sexual characters, etc. We have to know that. For this we have to study both internal and external female reproductive system. So when we are coming up to the external female reproductive system, the external female reproductive system is having two functions. First thing, the female reproductive system has to enable the sperm into the internal inside the reproductive system, female reproductive system. Number two, it has to protect the body from the infectious organisms. These two things they have to do naturally they have to do. So we are going to see about what are the male and what are the female reproductive system external structures. So this female reproductive system external structure is not given in diagrammatically, it is not given in your textbook, but it is explained for the understanding of it. I have taken a diagram from through online and pasted over here. So if you see here in the female reproductive system, female reproductive external genitalia female reproductive system is having two parts. Mainly three parts are there, and one thing you have to understand, the in the female reproductive system there are two different pathways for excretion, that is for the passing of urine and for the reproductive system. And the reproductive system begins with vagina, and over the vagina there is a small opening through which the excretory material, that is urine, will be passed out. So here both are included in the same area, but we have to study together, and we are giving much importance to the reproductive part. So since the reproductive part is present over the outside genitalia, we have to study completely, then we have to move inside. So when you see here, you can see that there are some structures like if you look into the female genitalia from the external part, it feels that it is looking like a lip. Since it is looking like a lip, they have given the name labia. Word labia means lips. And if you see there, there are two lips will be there. One lip is known as the labia majora, that is the external covering, and the another lip is known as the labia minora. Then we have the birth canal, and this labia majora and labia minora joins in one place known as clitoris, and it will erect during the time of sexual intercourse, or whenever the female will get the sexual exposure. So females, that clitoris will erect up. And if you see in some cases the vaginal part will be covered with hymen. Word hymen means membrane. So in some few females, the vagina will be covered with a thin membrane known as hymen. And in earlier times, this hymen is considered as a sign of virginity or purity. So they believed that if the hymen is not broken, it shows that the females are virgin. But nowadays, the medical science came to know that hymen can broke during the sexual intercourse, but hymen can broke in many ways. For example, if a female is an athlete, a female is very much conscious about the health, so they will be undergoing vigorous exercises. So a female is a gymnastic person, in those every time also this hymen can break. So hymen is not a sign for virginity, but the earlier people considered it. They have considered like that. So this vagina is covered with a small membrane structure which is called as hymen. And if you these are the female genitalia, and this labia majora will be covered with hairs when the female reaches the sexual maturity, and you can see a small labeling also there as urethra. So you must understand that in female, the excretory part and the reproductive part both are separate or both are different, but in male both comes out through a same urethra. So that you have to keep in mind. Now we are moving into the internal structure. The internal structure of the female will be seen like this. So if we can see there, it is something like an almond shape. You can see the labeling of vagina. You can see that vagina, cervix, and you can see the uterus, and the uterus is having two branch like structures, which is known as the fallopian tubules. And these fallopian tubules very down to the infundibulum area, fimbriae area, it is attached with the ovary. So there are two ovaries are there, one uterus, all uterus, fallopian tubules, fallopian tubes. All this together make the female internal reproductive structure. So we have to know it also. So what we have to study is what are ovary, what is the function of ovary, how ova is produced, how this ova will be get ready for the fertilization, what will happen after fertilization, birth, lactation, etc. Like that it will go in. So I have not included one female organ known as the mammalian breast. I have not included that. I will include during the time of lactation, which is coming in with respect to the birth. So we will discuss there. So if you see here, if you see this female structure, we have ovary, we have the fallopian tubules, and we have the uterus. First we will see generally what is the structure of the female reproductive system, then we will move to the ovary in detail. So if you see here, you can see that ovaries are the area where the ova is produced. Because of the hormonal changes, ova is produced. That ova will be taken up by some you can see some finger projection like structures which are there, which are known as fimbriae. That fimbriae will be taken, that you can see the pathway also. That fimbriae will be that ovum will be collected, they move like the cilia, they are known as a fimbriae. And this fimbriae is connected to a narrow canal, now a broad area known as ampulla, and this ampulla moves forward and it forms a very narrow canal known as isthmus, and this isthmus leads into the uterus. And this uterus is an almond shape, which is an inverted shape, inverted almond shape. And if you see this uterus is having mainly three layers: endometrium. Endo means inside. Then they have the myometrium. So there are three parts are there. One is known as endometrium, another one is known as the myometrium, and these are responsible for the during the time of pregnancy. So the female, sorry, after fertilization, ovum, the zygote will come, or we can say it as the embryo will come and attach to the over to the uterus. This main thing you have to understand. Then, and if you're coming down, you can see that the path is become very narrow, and we can see there as the cervical canal, cervix, then vagina. And when we consider about this uterus, this uterus is very much flooded with the arteries and veins, because uterus is the only area where this fertilized ovum, sorry, zygote can come and attach. So apart from that, it can't attach anywhere. So it is uterus makes a bed, a proper bed, so that this fertilized ovum or a zygote can come and attach there. And the top part of the uterus, it is known as the fundus. And from the side of the fundus, there are two tubes are going. One is not, both of them are known as the fallopian tubules. So these are the main structure of uterus, fallopian tubules, and the ovary. And we have to study the structure of ovary in detail, not much but little bit we have to study. And when we are coming to the structure of uterus, sorry, structure of ovary, this ovarian structure looks like this, and this diagram is very much important. Both these diagrams are asked in the CBSE board examination. That means the female reproductive system and the female ovary, explain the structure of a female ovary with menstrual cycle, they are asked many times. So both the diagrams and the explanations are important. So if you see here in the in the ovary, this growth of the ovary is 100% depends upon the hormones. That means the ovary serves, you have studied that ovary is an endocrine gland like testis. So ovary secretes mainly the hormone known as estrogen and progesterone. The role of estrogen and role of progesterone, the role of estrogen is to give the female secondary sexual characters and the growth. Number two, progesterone is responsible for maintaining the uterus. If the progesterone is not secreted, hormone is not secreted, the uterus lining will never form properly. If the uterus is not formed properly, the zygote or embryo can't come and attach there. If the embryo can't come and attach there, it will never go into further development. So even after fertilization also, if it is not come and stick to the uterus, it may leads to natural abortion. So production of these two hormones are produced mainly from mainly from the ovary. Along with that, little bit of androgen also. I have last time also I have said that estrogen and androgen are secreted together, but the level of estrogen when considered to the females will be more compared to the androgen, and the level of progesterone will be almost equal. with the estrogen. So if you're seeing here, this ovary is supplied with very nourished with blood nutrition, nourished with nutrition. And if you see here, by the time of the birth in a female, there will be many primordial follicles will be there. That means the stem cells, they will divide in such a way that they will form ovary, and inside this ovary they will form a primordial follicle. That follicle will be responsible for the formation of ovum. So there will be lot of primordial follicles will be there. When the female reaches to the puberty, as soon as when the estrogen started to secrete, these primordial follicles started to develop. These primordial follicles will develop into first into a primary follicle, and this primary follicle will develop into a secondary follicle, and the secondary follicles will get some covering. We will study that, but just to understand this, form a covered and form a graphene follicle, and it will rupture out. Ruptured means the production of ovulation has taken place, and after ovulation that mark will be there. That mark is known as the corpus luteum. We can see that when the ovary, that is ovum, is liberated out, that means ovulation has taken. We will study that in menstrual cycle, how and what. And then that wherever this ovum is liberated out, it will form into corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is also having some functions. Corpus luteum, the after the liberation of ovum, this corpus luteum also functions as an endocrine gland for a short time being. This corpus luteum secretes progesterone, which in turn helps to the uterus lining. And if the fertilization has not taken place, this corpus luteum will become a scar on the ovary, and that scar is known as the corpus albicans. So if you want to know whether the ovulation has taken place or not under the microscope or physically when we are examining an ovary, so corpus albicans is a marker. So that if the corpus albicans is there, we can say that the ovulation has happened. It's clear. So this is the main structure of this ovary. And if you think about this size of the ovaries, it is almost 3.5 centimeter length, 2 centimeter in width, and 1 centimeter in thickness, and they are joined from the both the sides by the ovarian ligaments. And these ovaries are present inside a depression known as the ovarian fossa. These are the extra what you can add on when we're writing. And the which type of tissues forms this ovary? They are the cuboidal epithelial tissues. They are responsible for making this, which is tissue that is covering this ovary. I think it is clear to you. So these two things you have to go through. Next, we are going to discuss about oogenesis. Oogenesis means how these eggs are formed. Same like spermatogenesis, this egg is also formed through some series of steps, which includes mitosis and meiosis. And same as we had discussed there, same step follows with a minor difference. For example, if you see this step, you will be having the oogonium. Oogonium will be the cell which have the capacity to develop into a ovum. So this oogonium will undergo a mitotic division that takes place before birth, and the primary oocytes will be there, and they will be arrested in the prophase 1 stage. And after puberty, after reaching to this puberty, this primary oocyte will again subdivide into secondary oocyte. When the secondary oocyte is formed, apart from the secondary oocyte there will be a small polar bodies are also formed. And there can be a question is possible, why polar bodies? So here the difference goes in, according to my language, the formation. Why polar body? Because ovum is the area where the sperm comes and hits, and it will undergo fertilization. After fertilization they need the cytoplasm. After that, the cytoplasm, after that, this has to grow into a next generation. That means the mixing of the chromosome takes place. Along with that, with the formation of the ovum must be of n in condition, single n. So this polar body will take that half n, because this primary oocyte is originated from the 2n in condition, from the primary oocyte 2n in condition. Then they are undergoing meiosis is a reduction division. That means making into half. That half of the chromosome will be taken by the polar body with a little amount of cytoplasm, and it will degenerate off. When then, after formulation, before ovulation, it will develop into a mature ovary, and the secondary oocyte will be arrested in metaphase 2 stage of the meiotic division. Once the fertilization takes place, further division will undergo undergoing, and the chromosomes will be arranged according to their numbers, and it will become in a diploid stage. So this is the main thing that is taking place in meiosis. And if you are asking what is the structure of a matured egg, this is also there in your CBSE textbook. Both the diagrams are same, only thing is that this is little bit colorful, and they have given that in a black and white stage. I hope so. 1 minute. Yeah, they are given little bit in a black and white diagram, and that's black and white diagram. And if you see the structure of the ovum, you can see that this ovum is having very rich in cytoplasm, which is known as ooplasm, and they have a nucleus, and they have nucleus with the chromosome half in number, and this ooplasm is covered with a vitelline membrane. And that vitelline membrane serves the boundary between zona pellucida and the ooplasm. They serves, and this function I will explain later. Then comes zona pellucida, another a big layer on that, and very first layer is corona radiata. So corona means corona means crown, and radiata means which emits light. So whenever we see an ovum under the microscope, to understand that, the scientists use this mark of corona radiata. So when we see that in under the microscope, there is very shining light like structure we can see under microscope. And why this? What is the importance of this vitelline membrane is, so whenever a sperm hits with an ovum or peers inside the ovum, it will, if one sperm is entered, then others, they will protect polyspermy. That means they will not allow the other sperms to come inside. So whatever the sperm that is crosses, once the one sperm is gone inside, crosses the ooplasm, and they have exchanged that means they have mixed their chromosomes. So what will happen, there may be many sperms are also coming in, so through the corona radiator. So we will study about that. When this corona radiate, when it is comes in, these sperms will be blocked at the border of vitelline membrane. So vitelline membrane will never allow these sperms to go in. That is the main function of this vitelline membrane. So this is the structure of the ovum. That ovum is the first level is corona radiata, very adjacent to the, then it is zona pellucida. Zona pellucida is made up of glycoproteins like ZP1, ZP2, ZP3. Then vitelline membrane, ooplasm,